עכשיו נשיר שיר חדש ובנענע תורת השם תמימה תורת השם תמימה תורת השם תמימה נשיבה נהווה תורת השם תמימה הייתה יראת השם תמימה תורת השם תמימה משיבה נהווה איי איי עדות השם נאמנה איי Okay, Shalom Aleichem everybody. Welcome again. Zot Hashem, we'll sing a little bit at the end of the Shiur. So we're going to, as always, dedicate our Torah study for the protection of the whole Jewish people. You see only Yeshuas and Smachos and Brachos to all of Am Yisrael. There's also an anonymous partial donor, so she should be blessed. And we should have a beautiful night of deepening our connection with Tefila together. So tonight, please God, our plan is to study, really it's part 2 of Bircat HaTorah. We went through in depth the 3 brachas of Bircat HaTorah. And now I want to kind of go through all that other stuff. All those psukim and the Mishnah and the Gemara. And really just try to figure out, first off, just on a pshat level, what are we actually saying? What does it mean? Why are we saying it? And hopefully we can even go a bit deeper. That's the plan, with Hashem's help, okay? Zvat Hashem. So, after we say the bracha of the Torah, in your siddurs you're going to see 3 things. First, Bircat Kohanim, okay? The second is a Mishnah from Peah, Elo Dvarim She'en Lehem Shiur. And the third passage is a Brisa, a Gemara, in Shabbos. Okay? So most people have been saying this stuff their whole lives and don't really know why and really what's flying. And as a case study, this Shabbos, I was, preparing this Shiur, and I got up to this idea of the Re'ayon. These are the things that have no Shiur, and one of them is the Ra'ayon. So I was going to Yeshiva Bachar. I'm talking 25-year-old guys who've been studying Torah, who've been saying Birkat Torah for a long time. And I was asking them not to quiz them, not to be smart, but I actually was trying to figure out the pshat. What do we mean there's no shiur to the Re'ayon? Something we say every single day for many, many years. And most people said, what? What's the Re'ayon? I was like, like the korban, re'iyah, the sacrifice we bring in the Beit Midrash. And they're like, great question, stump me. And it's just a great case example of there's a lot of stuff we say and we don't really know what we're saying. So the beautiful thing about you and Tefila is that we're going to try to understand what we're going to know what we're saying by the end of the night. Bezrat Hashem. So let's jump in. So first of all, the minhag is a pasuk, a mishnah, and a gemara. After we thank God for the bracha of Torah, we do Birkat Torah, we do a pasuk, a mishnah, and gemara. That's not a coincidence, okay? What's the concept behind that? We're trying to connect to all 3 different facets of Torah, to Chumash, to Mishnah, and to Gemara. Right? This actually corresponds very well to the concept in the Gemara and Ketubos that ideally a person should thrice his day, split his day into thirds. A third of the day learning Chumash, a third of the day learning Mishnah, and a third of the day learning Gemara. Interesting, I've been learning Rambam Hilchos Talmud Torah with the Chavrusa, and that's exactly what the Rambam says. That's how we should split up our day, at least in the beginning. Morning Seder, Chumash. Throw in a little Navi. Spice it up. Afternoon Seder, Mishnah. Night Seder, Gemara. That's the ideal. way we should break down our learning. Now, does anyone actually do that? Not that I know of. Maybe, yeah. Maybe Zilberman's a little bit.
The Gemara concludes that
and you can learn Gemara, and within Gemara is everything. Okay. If you learn the Rambam itself, though, the Rambam literally says that's ideally how we should do it, in that order. And in the end of the day, once you know everything by heart, you're holding in all of Mishnah, so then you dedicate yourself most fully to Gemara. That's how the Rambam paskins.
Question: when you say the bracha on the Torah, on the Torah, is it important that you learn something right away, just like when you say a bracha?
Exactly. That's the pshat. Al atar. Exactly. The pshat is that in the same way when you say a shackle, so you immediately drink the drink. So the idea here explains Tosfos in the Gemara and Brachos Daf Yud Aleph that the reason for this custom of saying these three things, Mishnah, Chumash, and Gemara, is to immediately say the bracha and then do it. Not wait, not hesitate. Okay? He actually concludes that it's not necessary, that you don't have to do that. But nonetheless, the minhag evolved it's found in the Siddur of Amram Gaon, in the Gaonim era, and the minhag evolved that even Ashkenazim do this custom of this pasuk, this Mishnah, and this Gemara. It's not ma'akev. If you did another Mishnah, it's okay. Right?
If you didn't learn it all.
If you didn't learn it all, that's a big problem. You need to make sure you learn something after.
No, but if you say you learned it an hour later.
But Pashtas, it's okay too, because it's not really comparable to a blessing on a Birchas Nehenin. Even though we learned one opinion that says that Birchas Torah is in fact, the Arevna is in fact the Birchas Nehenin, most opinions assume it's not that type of bracha. It's a different type of bracha. It's a general thankfulness bracha. And so you're not obligated to immediately follow it up with Torah. But nonetheless, our minhag, to be machmir, is to follow up the bracha with immediately jumping into Torah. So thank you for reminding me to say that. But then the question is, okay, but why these specific Torahs? Okay, so our first thing we said is no, because we want to tap in and connect ourselves to all the different facets of Torah. So you could argue and say, well, okay, maybe we should do Kabbalah. Maybe we should do some Chassidus. Maybe we should do some Iyun Tefila. But I guess, we had to draw the line somewhere. So the basic breakdown was Chumash, Mishnah, Gemara, and we're connecting ourselves to all the different facets of Torah with these three parts. Yeah, Yecheskel?
For Spartan, every day it's just the Kohen blessing. Nothing else. It doesn't go into the other.
The Sfardim don't do Elu Dvarim Shein Lehem Shiur V'chulei. The Dvar Hashem is Birkat Kohanim. But then right after that, Nusach Edut Am Yisrael doesn't say the Mishnah and the Gemara. So you can pass up the Siddur and we'll explore for ourselves. It could be you're right. It could be that Edut Am Yisrael has a different custom. Not sure. I was under the impression that they also do. You can pass it up. Let's see. Right, so that's that. They say a whole bunch of other stuff. Interesting. Okay, so we can look into it if maybe Nusach Edut Mizrach doesn't have this custom. I'm not sure. Again, it is mentioned by Tosfos. The Tosfos is usually with Ashkenazim, so it wouldn't be shocking, but we'll have to double check that if Sephardim do all of it. Okay? So good. So we have the basic structure. But that still leaves another question, which is, okay, so we want to do a little Torah, yeah? But why of all Torahs do we choose Birkat Kohanim? In other words, if I were to ask you guys, forget everything you knew. You need to pick one passage, one story that encompasses Torah. You just thank God for Torah. Now, pick your favorite Torah. The Torah that you connect to the best. What would you guys say?
The blessing.
No, you already given me the answer. I'm not interested in. Imagine, pretend. Pretend for a second, like you don't know what's given in this in the Chumash, and you need one Torah that to you is like the essence of Torah. What might come to your head? Shema. It's a good idea. I like that.
Bereshis.
Bereshis. That's a good one. Seres Adibros, right? I wouldn't have necessarily jumped to say, Birkat Kohanim. But for some reason, the minhag developed specifically to say Birkat Kohanim. So what's that all about? Why would that be the first Torah that we connect when we're trying to kind of encompass Torah? To say in one passage, what is Torah all about? Birkat Kohanim. Why is that? Why of all things? Yeah? So let's jump into that. What do you guys think? Any ideas off the bat? Why is Birkat Kohanim a microcosm of all of Torah? That's another going on. I would have chosen that, but that's not what the minhag is. The minhag is Birkat Kohanim. So why Birkat Kohanim? What do you guys think? I stumped you, yeah?
Because we're saying brachas, so this is a bracha from the Kohen.
Since we're blessing God, so you want to squeeze another bracha in there. Okay.
It's a bracha that comes to us. We're not blessing God.
So we're saying a bracha, and then Torah in its essence is a bracha that God is giving us. Okay. Who speaks in that language? The Mishnah Brura. That's the language of the Mishnah Brura. He says, since these are words of bracha, so we want to start our Torah with words of blessings. Yafeh. Another allusion I found was Sefer HaManhig, if I'm not mistaken. He writes that there's 60 words in Birkat Kohanim, and there's 60 Masechtos. Really depends how you count it, but one way of counting is there's 60 Masechtot. So the 60 words are reminding us to Bezrat Hashem, one day we should be Zocher to learn all of Shas. They kind of encompass all of Shas within it. Another explanation. Another explanation I found is, if you look at these verses, there's Yivarecha Hashem Yishmerecha is 3 words. Ya'er Hashem Panav Elecha V'Yikunecha is 5 words. Yisa Hashem Panav Elecha Yatemecha Shalom is 7 words. 3, 5, 7. What does that remind us of? The different days where we have Kriyas Torah. We have days of when Ezra is Metaken 3 aliyahs. There are days when there's 5 aliyahs, and there's days when there's 7 aliyahs, like Shabbos. So we have the private way of connecting to Torah, and then we have a communal way of connecting to Torah. My only flaw with that explanation is that, but we also have days of 4, and we also have days of 6. But okay, that was one explanation. Another explanation I saw, which I liked, is that there's 3 psukim. What's the minimum amount of psukim you need in order to fulfill your obligation of Kriyas Torah? 3. You have to break it into 3. In the same way that the Baal Kari has to do 3 psukim, so we have to do minimally 3 psukim. Very nice. For me, the answer that made the most sense is the following. Now, of course, we could go in depth. Maybe we'll a little bit taste on the meaning behind Birkat Kohanim, but the truth is I'm saving it for a whole different shiur on its own of what does Birkat Kohanim really mean. So we'll give a taster. But before we even go into the words, what are we saying when we say we're thanking God for Torah and this is Torah? Torah is Yivarech Hashem Yishmerecha. Maybe what we're saying is we are Kohanim. Well, not literally. Not everyone here is actually giving the Birkat Kohanim. But we are, after all, a Mamlechet Kohanim. We're a kingdom of priests. Every Jew is, and especially a Jew who's davening, who's privileged enough to be connected to our tradition, has to take upon himself to be a Kohen. And what does it mean to be a Kohen, essentially? What does it mean we're a Mamlechet Kohanim? It means we're a teacher. We're an inspirer. We have to teach the world. We have to spread God's light to the world. Ya'er Hashem panav elecha v'yikunecha. We have to take God's light and shine it to the world. And how are we going to shine that light to the world? Through studying and practicing Torah. Torah is our way of shining God's light into the world. So by us saying Birkat Kohanim, we're basically saying that the Torah is giving us the vessels to be Kohanim. The pasuk says that a Kohen, ki siftei Kohen yishmeru das, v'Torah yavakshu mipiu, ki malach Hashem tzvakotu. A Kohen, you should seek Torah from his mouth, because he is compared to an angel. So we see that a Kohen is, at its basic level, is meant to be someone who's going to inspire the Jewish people and the world. So we're a Mamlechet Kohanim, and that's our mission. By studying Torah, we're going to change the world and spread these values to the world. And maybe that's why we start off our day saying Birkat Kohanim, to remind ourselves that we are all Kohanim and Kohanets. We want to be. By the way, there's another illusion. We've said this in a previous year. What other illusion do we have to remind us that we are all Kohanim? After the Beis HaMikdash, we don't have Korbanos going all the time, unfortunately. But Chazal instituted that we have to do Netilas Yadayim before we eat bread and when we wake up in the morning. And we gave the explanation of the Rashba, that why do we wash our hands as we begin our day? To remind us that we are all Kohanim, that we are all doing the Avodah HaKodesh. Every time we sit down to have a holy meal, we are doing the holy Avodah. We're not bringing sacrifices, but we're eating with Kedusha. That's why we have salt on the table. So we wash our hands. Because we are now, I don't think it was a coincidence. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. We don't have that same hierarchy like we once had. So Hashem says, every single Jew, you are a Kohen. And when we wake up and say Birkat Kohanim, we're reminding ourselves that, okay, not technically, halachically, but in many ways, we are now taking on the role to be those Kohanim. And by studying Torah, Ye'er Hashem panav elecha v'yichunecha. And God is kind of shining His light upon us. And through the light of Torah, we're going to get that chen. And we're going to shine upon the world. That chen of Hashem. Rabbi Nachman Mibrasav, in his famous Torah, 6th Torah of Likutei Maharan, goes on and on about how saying, how do you get chen? There's some people, they walk down the street and they're just shining. And what's their chen? That they were learning Torah, the Shema. Someone really learned Torah, the Shema, then he's shining that light into the world. Rav Shlomo would always say, sometimes you see a yeshiva bacher, and everyone's running, they love hanging out with this person. And another guy, he's learning in the same Beis Midrash, but everyone's running the other way. He says, what's the difference? The guy who you were running towards, he was learning for the whole Jewish people. He was learning for you, so you feel connected to him. And the other guy was just learning for himself. So he wasn't doing it b'shem Kol Yisrael, so you don't feel that chen. Torah has to be to receive it and then to spread it to the world. Let it flow through and go. So maybe that's one reason that I thought of as to why we start off with Birkat Kohanim, because that is the essence, that encapsulates Torah. You with me? By the way, amazingly enough, I'm sure you guys know that just a 2-minute drive from here, the most ancient document of Judaism that has ever been found, from 600 BCE, was found just by Ketef Ben Hinnom, a scroll, 1979. Right? Gabi Bar-Kai finds a scroll, and what is the most ancient document that we've ever found? Birkat Kohanim. Unbelievable. That's what Hashem arranged. It should be the most ancient document that we find here in Yerushalayim, a scroll that had written on it, the Birkat Kohanim. So a lot of Hashkacha Pratis there. It's like our ancestors are waving to us. You know? You can walk to the grave after the Shiur if you want. Mamish, I'll walk away. So unbelievable. It's Ketef Ben Hinnom. Talk to the tour guides afterwards. We'll show you how to get there. Gary will show you. And maybe one day we'll be zocheh to do a tour there. And you'll see it's Ramesh right next to the Begin Center. It's a 5-minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah. One of the most important archaeological finds in world history. Just the Begin Center. Maybe one day we'll do a Yiboneh tour, and I'll show you. Bezrat Hashem. It's a good idea. But unbelievable. Okay. Yeah. So that's Birkat Kohanim. Like I said, I'm going to hold off on Birkat Kohanim, the actual meaning, for a later Shiur. Let us get there, Bezrat Hashem. I'm also really connected to it. It's my bar mitzvah parsha. But I want to get to the Elu Dvarim part of our Shiur because I think that's even less well known. So the Mishnah that Am Yisrael took upon themselves to say that encompasses, is that a word?
Encompasses.
Yeah, encompasses Torah is the following Torah. Look inside. Elu Dvarim she'ein lahem shiur. These are the matters that have no set amount. Hapeya. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is I'm just going to explain this Mishnah on base level. And then we're going to ask ourselves by the end of it, why is this the Mishnah of all Mishnahs that Chazal chose to insert here? Okay? Peya. So there's a mitzvah in the Torah. When you are a farmer, Vayikra Chaf Gimel, Lo techale pa'at sadecha. You have a field. Don't take all of the agriculture for yourself, all the farming for yourself. Leave a corner for the poor person. Okay? That's the halacha. So what does it mean there's no shiur? From the Torah, there's no minimal amount. You could leave one little piece with one stalk of corn, or you could leave half the field. It's up to you. Okay? It's like Hashem saying, you want to be generous? Be generous. You want to be stingy? Be stingy. But the main thing is you have to leave a little bit for the poor person. Okay? Rabbinically, the rabbis say, no. We don't trust people. They're all going to be too stingy. So minimally 1/60th of your field you have to leave to fulfill this mitzvah of payah. But this Mishnah is saying, biblically speaking, there's no minimal amount and there's no maximal amount. If you want, you can give half your field, interestingly enough. By the way, what's the meaning behind this mitzvah? I'd say there's two ways of looking at this mitzvah of payah. The simplest level, what's the idea behind the mitzvah of payah?
Providing for the poor.
Charity, providing for the poor person, caring about them. Beautiful. On a secondary level, what else is the idea behind this mitzvah? Meaning, if it's just about charity, maybe the Torah should just tell you, give 1/10 of your field, take 20% of your corn and 10 to 20%. So maybe there's something more going on. So you could look at it. It's a question of emunah. It's reminding herself that whose field is it really? Hashem's field. It's not my field. And that act of just holding myself back and not taking it all, it's like there's a Hasidic custom to not eat the last piece of that pizza. Leave a little bit. And the bracha falls on that. Well, that's more of an act of self-control. But this is an act of saying it's really God's field. So that's why it doesn't even matter. I mean, it matters. Obviously, it's encouraged to be more generous. But as long as you leave a little bit, that's showing that it's God's field. Maybe that's also the idea behind payas. Payas, we're leaving a little bit of our hair and saying, this we're not going to touch because it's God's face. Yeah? My son's chalakah is coming up in about a month from today. So we're thinking about Yiboneh payas. We're trying to figure out what's the meaning behind the payas. And my wife is very excited to have my Elishi to have some cute payas about Hashem. Anyways, okay, good. So that's payah. Next, what else has no shiur? Bikurim. Bikurim. There's a mitzvah in the Torah. Bikurei admatcha tavi labeit Hashem. Shemot Chav Gimel. The first fruits you should bring to Hashem. Parshas Ki Tavo. Okay? What fruits are we referring to? You want any fruits? Shiva minim. That's how the rabbis understand it. Okay, so you plant your grapes, your dates, your olives. You gotta bring them to the Beit HaMikdash. What do we do when we're at the Beit HaMikdash? You gotta do the wave. Okay? Do the wave. Arami Oved Rabbi. You thank Hashem. You tell the whole story, the whole Megillah, the whole Pesach Seder. Okay? And then what do you do with the dates you bring, and the grapes, you bring them to the Kohen. Okay, that's the mitzvah. We don't have this mitzvah anymore nowadays because we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. It's in there. So cut that from the video. Even the Sfardim say it. So that we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. So we don't have to do, we can't do that, sadly. B'ezrat Hashem. What can we do that's close to doing that? Go to the old city and go to Etrogman and get a smoothie with a lot of fruits. Make sure you get some dates in there. And then say a big bracha. And it's like almost, you could do Am Yisrael, you could wave it if you want. And then you can almost fulfill. Go to the kotel, wave it around. And almost. But the fruits of Eretz Yisrael, it's very holy, but it's not quite bikurim. Okay, but if you really want to be, you can give it to somebody else. Go find the Kohen guy, give him the smoothie, he'll make his day. But what's the idea behind bikurim? What's the idea?
It all comes from Hashem.
Recognizing that it's God, but it's not just recognizing that it's God, recognizing it's God and, because then if it was just recognizing the God, it's
the first before you take.
Giving your best, giving your first, and giving it to the Kohen. So it's not just giving it to God. You're connecting to the tzaddik. You're connecting to the teachers. You're giving to them and you're showing your connection to them. And you're connecting to the Beit HaMikdash, to the makom of Kedusha. You're also giving to Hashem, correct? Same idea. You could also say it's an Indian of gratitude. Hakarat HaTov. Am Yisrael, and you remind yourself, wow, we're in Eretz Yisrael. We can have dates. We can have grapes. Gewalt. Okay, so there's a lot of beautiful concepts. What do we mean, ein lehem shiur? It has no shiur. So, technically, you could take one little grape. Take just one little grape and give it to the Kohen. Comes the rabbis and they say, okay, there's a minimal amount to give. It doesn't look so nice. You go to your Kohen and you give him a half a date, But, so there's a minimal amount. But technically, there's no minimal. And I don't think there's a mini maximal either. You could give them as many fruits as you want. Okay, good. Next, hare'ayon. What does re'ayon mean? The tafi. Re'ayon is related to the word re'iyah. Okay, there's a mitzvah in the Torah. Devarim 16:16. It's easy to remember. Lo yera'u panai rekam. When you go up to the Beit HaMikdash 3 times a year, all your males are coming up to the Beit HaMikdash. Usually they bring the family. You can't come alone. You gotta come with a korban. Okay? So what type of korban, not what type of korban is either a cow or a sheep or a goat. Okay? But how much do you have to spend on the korban? It doesn't say. It could be more, it could be less. So that's one way which the Rambam learns there's no shiur. Or the way that I like it, reading it a little bit better, for me, what it means there's no shiur. It means you could go up to the Beis HaMikdash for a second, in and out, or you can stay there all day, hang out, chill with Ben Gvir, do davenings, do all your holy work up in the Beis HaMikdash and hang out all day. There's no too little, no too much. Technically, even 1 second, you fulfilled the mitzvah. Okay, so that's the two understanding of ein lehem shiur, the mitzvah of going up to Har Bayis, Aliyah Har Bayis. Okay, what's the meaning behind that mitzvah of going up to Har Bayis in the 3 holidays? What do you guys think? What's that all about? What's the value? What are we connecting to?
Seeing the revelation of God.
Seeing Hashem, you're saying in the lesson of Yir'ah, I would say even to be seen by Hashem, just as important, and to connect to the makom of Kedusha, the makom, this week's parsha, to connect. Yafeh. Next, Gmilut Chasadim. This might be a little bit more down, practical for us today. What does it mean there's no shiur of Gmilut Chasadim? It means when there's tzedakah, there's a maximum amount of tzedakah which you're supposed to give. And there's a minimal amount. Okay? 10 to 20% of your funds for most people is meiser. Now, at least rabbinically, that's the normal protocol. Okay, if you're really poor, then you're exempt. If you're really, really rich, come to the rabbis, they'll give you a heter. Now, there are heters to give more than 20%. Maybe it's big machlokes. Maybe yes, maybe no. I think yes. But in general, for tzedakah, there is a 10 to 20% exemption. But when it comes to chesed, there's no shiur. There's no. You can give everything. You can go all out. Give your whole body and soul to doing chesed all day if you want. Is that what's right for you and your avodas Hashem? I don't know. You have to figure it out. You have to talk to you and your local therapist and your local rabbi. Should I be spending 80% of my time in the hospital visiting sick people, or maybe I should do other mitzvahs? I don't know. Everyone should have that conversation. But technically, you can give everything for gmilut chasadim. That's what we mean in lem shiur. Yeah? And there's some people who went all out. And for example, Rav Shlomo Carlebach was known to go 99% in on gmilut chasadim. This is, one of the stories in Holy Brother is that there was a man who unfortunately was suicidal, and no one knew what to do with him. So they called Rav Shlomo and said, it's very close to the end, save his life. So Rav Shlomo started calling the guy. Calling. He wouldn't pick up. He would just hang up every time. At a certain point, it was the coldest day of the year in New York. Rav Shlomo goes to a toll booth back in the day, and he calls the guy up, and he picks up. And he says, get away, I don't want to talk. And he says, listen, I'm freezing cold in this toll booth. If you don't come soon, I'm going to die. You're going to let an old man die? So Rav Shlomo guilted him into it, and he comes out in the freezing cold, and they meet and get some coffee, and Rav Shlomo convinces him to leave the cult he was in, and he saves his life. So that's a crazy story, but that you can do that if you want to go all out, put your life on the line. You know, there's a lot of stories. Rav Shlomo would do that. He once saw someone drowning in the water. He was a pretty good swimmer. He went all out. Very similar story, and she was going to keep swimming and just. And again, Rav Shlomo screamed, I'm going to die if you don't go back any further. So she felt bad, and she let Rav Shlomo save her life, and he saved her life. So he went all out. Gemilut chasadim ein lehem shiur. Okay? He also went all out with tzedakah, which is a shaila. Again, are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to give all your money away? Fine. But in general, gemilut chasadim ein lehem shiur. Okay? And finally, the Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah. Ein lehem shiur. What do we mean there's no shiur, there's no set amount for Talmud Torah? So on the minimal side, there is a set amount. The rabbis did set. By the way, I may be violating a law right now, because the Gemara says you're not allowed to teach this law I'm about to teach you to an Am Yisrael, to someone who's not so learned. But I trust you guys. From the fact that you came to this year tonight, that you're all big Talmidei Chachamim, Talmidei Chachamot. So I'm allowed to teach you this halacha. Now you understand. I'll explain why. Technically, you fulfill your mitzvah of learning Torah just by saying one passage of Shema every day. Okay? Technically. Or this passage that we just learned. Right? Now why aren't you supposed to, the Gemara says, why aren't you supposed to teach that to an Am Yisrael? Because he's going to just every day learn one thing, give himself a check, move on with his life. So don't tell him. Don't tell him that all he has to really do is learn a little bit. Tell him he has to learn, step the bar a little higher. Okay? But don't tell anybody. Okay? That's just between us. But what does it mean? So there is a shiur. There's a minimal amount. You have to learn a little bit in the day and learn a little bit at night. But what do we mean there's no shiur? It means there's no shiur on the maximal side. Okay? So you can learn all day and all night. No one's ever going to be like, stop learning. Talmud Torah, you can go learn forever, and the sky is the limit. Right? And of course, about the big Talmidei Chachamim, that's what they would do. They would learn non-stop. With that said, by the way, even though there's no technical shiur, there is one particular case when I would cap the Torah, and that's if there's a mitzvah that can be done that no one else can do. So in that particular situation, then stop learning. Right? Unless you can put it on your iPhone and do both at the same time, that's fine. But if there's, someone's dying on the street over there, you can't say, I have my my Shnai Mikra Seder right now. I can't go, do CPR. Like, obviously, if there's a mitzvah that no one else can do, you got to do the mitzvah. You can't say, I'm not going to wear tefillin today because I'm learning. Right? So if there's a mitzvah that needs to be done, then you gotta do it. But generally speaking, Talmud Torah has no shiur. Okay? Good. So that's the Mishnah. The first Mishnah in Payas. It's really nice. Why is this the Mishnah of all Mishnahs that Chazal, I wouldn't say Chazal chose, but that Am Yisrael took upon themselves to say as the, right here, right after we said Birkat Torah. Any ideas? I'm not looking for any crazy Torahs, just simple idea. Why do you think this was the Mishnah of all Mishnahs that they chose? There's a lot of Mishnahs in Shas. Why this one? If you don't know, that's okay. I also didn't know until I prepared this year. I don't think most people know. I think the pshat is very simple. I heard this pshat. This makes sense. Because we're talking about Torah. Because the end of the Mishnah talks about the important that there's no shiur to learning Torah. In other words, it's encouraging us. Learn as much Torah as you can. So we're starting off our day, after we thank God through Birkat Torah, reminding ourselves, hey Kalman, there's no shiur to Torah. By the way, along the way, we also learn you should do chesed, you should have emunah, you should do, peah, bikurim, all these beautiful ideas. Yeah? Rav Kook gives a little bit of a fancy explanation that I've been alluding to. That each one of these ideas, the peah connects to emunah, the bikurim is connecting to the tzaddik, to the tamidei chachamim, the re'on is connecting to the makom hamikdash, milut chasatim is serving Hashem with your body, Talmud Torah is serving Hashem with your mind. Each of these is deeper ways of connecting to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So that's a little bit of a fancier explanation. And as simple as the explanation, I think it's to remind us that there's no shiur for learning Torah. So far, so good? Yalla. Yeah?
Would it be that because it says there is no minimal amount, the Rabbi felt this was something we should be reminded of? Because if there's no minimal amount, you don't think of it all the time. And so you need that reminding.
You need the reminding that?
Of all of these things.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what all of davening is. Davening is reminding us of our values, of what's important. And so we chose to remind ourselves every day of these beautiful ideas, including the importance of learning Torah. The problem is that once you do anything in life, it becomes a habit, which is great, but the problem is then you stop thinking about the meaning of what you're actually saying. Which is why, Baruch Hashem, we have this shiur to remind us what we're saying and why we're saying it, right? Baruch Hashem. So now that we've been reminded, every day we can actually remind ourselves. Hopefully. Bezrat Hashem. Okay, let's do it. Last Gemara. Elu dvarim shadam ochel peroteam ba'olam hazeh. These are the matters that a person eats their fruits in this world. Va'keren kayemet lo la'olam haba. But the main aspect of the reward remains for the next world. Okay? So, just like we did before, we're first just going to understand the meaning of this Gemara. In the end, we're going to ask ourselves, why is this the Gemara that we have to learn to begin our day? So the Gemara is saying there are certain mitzvahs which normally, I guess the assumption of the Gemara is a mitzvah is for the next world. You're going to see the reward in the next world. As the Gemara in Kedushin famously says, Schar mitzvah b'hai oilam leka. We are not going to necessarily see the reward for mitzvahs in this world. Maybe, but don't bank on it. The primary reward for mitzvahs is in the next world. That's the assumption of the Gemara. Why is that, by the way? Why shouldn't we see the rewards in this world? That's what the Gemara says. You're not going to see everyone who does a mitzvah immediately, boom, everything goes good for them and super happy. So one answer might be it would just be too easy. If every time you saw somebody put on tzitzis, boom, ice cream would start falling down from the heavens. then it would be just too easy. That could be one thing. So there has to be an element of test, of challenges, of tzaddik v'ralo v'chule v'chule. Rav Dessler beautifully explained. You should learn it inside. It was one of my first strive for truth I ever learned in high school. It's a beautiful maimar. The basic idea is like this: that mitzvahs they're so spiritual. They're from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that there's no currency in this world that could match a reward for them. Because they're spiritual entities. They're from Hashem. The only time we could really feel the true reward, so to speak, the feel goodness of the mitzvah is in the next world. So what do we get? We get schar mitzvah. We get some byproducts. You get to do another mitzvah. And as this Gemara is asserting, there might be some fruits. But the tree itself, the ikar of the reward, it's just impossible for our physical bodies to feel that amazing delight that we're going to only be able to feel in the next world. That's how Rav Dessler and others explain it. But nonetheless, with that, all that said, by the way, there's a big kasha on this. I don't know if we'll have time tonight or maybe another night for this whole approach, which is we have psukim in the Torah which do seem to indicate that there is reward for things in this world. Like the whole second paragraph of the Shema. Right? And then you get all this stuff. There's whole portions in the Torah which seem to completely contradict that Gemara that I just told you. That we don't get a reward in this world. So we got to kind of make sense out of that. But maybe we'll wait for our Vahayayim Shemo Shiur at the right time to try to explain that contradiction. But in any case,
we shouldn't serve God.
Don't serve God for the reward. Serve God because it's the right thing to do. But that's talking about reward in the next world. Okay? That's one way of reading it. We should serve God just because it's the right thing to do. But we assume that we are going to get rewarded in the next world. And this Gemara is certainly assuming that you are going to get rewarded in the next world. However, it's saying that there's certain mitzvahs that are byproducts, which are good for us in this world. Okay? And now we're going to run through some of those mitzvahs. With that said, I have a theory. I didn't see this in the Sfarim, but this is what I think. I think the mitzvahs which are being listed here have tangible, physical, enjoyable aspects that we ourselves have experienced. And maybe that's why these are the examples which the Gemara is listing, that besides for the real reward which is in the next world, we can actually see for ourselves reward, like they're satisfactory, they bring us joy in this world. Besides for that, it could be there's also some like metaphysical, spiritual thing that happens that if you do this mitzvah, you get 10 mitzvah points and your car won't break down or whatever, like random good things which happen for you. I'm not taking away from that, but I also think that these examples have within them good elements to them. So let's see if my theory is correct. Veluhem, let's go through it. Kibud av ve'em, honoring your parents. Honoring your parents is good for you in the next world, but it's also good for you in this world. Why would the Gemara assert that it's good for you in this world? Where they get that from? The kibud av is good for you in this world. So good. So the first answer I would have given is because the Torah itself says that you're going to have a long life if you do kibud av. So therefore we see that it has a good byproduct even in this world. Right? We see Esav of Russia. He's a bad guy, but he's got one good thing going for him. What was that? He was machabed his Abba. He would change his clothing, the Midrash says, before he would serve Esav. And therefore, he gets a lot of good stuff. He gets a lot of blessing in his life. That's why what's the antithesis? The only one who could take down Esav, parenthetically, Yosef. Rashi says Yosef can take down Esav. When Yosef is born, then Yaakov feels like, oh, now I could take down Esav. Because what does Yosef have going for him? He has kibud av and kibud aim. Kibud aim, he protects his mama. He stands up to make sure that nobody can see Rachel. And Kibud Av, when Yaakov sends him down to his brothers who don't like him very much, he says, Hineni, I'm ready to risk my life for Kibud Av. So Yosef can take down Esav because he's got the super Kibud Av. But the point is that Kibud Av has good rewards, not just in the next world, but also in this world. Long life. My only problem with that theory is, but there's another mitzvah which gives you long life. What's that? Shiluach Haken. So why does, if that's the reason, because you have, so then Shiluach Haken also we should say gives you fruits in this world, right? So my only theory is, maybe, Kibud Av, we see the tangible positive results in this world. What do I mean? If you're nice, respectful to your parents, usually good, it's good. Yeah? You have a good relationship with them. They'll be nice to you. You like them. When you're nice to people, they're usually nice back to you. That's just how it works. Right? Maybe they'll give you some money. Maybe who knows? All sorts of good things. It's good to have a good relationship with your parents, no? In this world too. So, I think that maybe is why. I don't know if you have the same tangible effect when you shoo away the mother bird. Maybe, but for most people, you don't feel it as much as Kibud Av Ve'im. So maybe that's why this is an example of something where you get the fruits. In addition, if you're respectful to your parents, who's going to see that? Your kids. So they'll be respectful to you. It'll be in the family. When you have family that respect one another, it's good. It's good for society. And lehefech, unfortunately. Okay, let's go to the next one. Ugmilud chasadim. Okay? Gmilud chasadim. Going with my theory that it's good for you in this world. Why is doing chesed good for you in this world?
Be nice to other people, they'll be nice to you.
First of all, if you're nice to them, they'll be nice to you. Very good. What else?
Kind of on that theme, it's also develops your personality, your sensitivity to other people and other people's needs.
So you're saying it develops you, it develops my ishut to become a kind person. What else?
It's Mida of God. God is, so I'm doing like God.
Exactly. That was what I was going for. That Hashem is a giver. That's why He created the world, according to the Kabbalah. Olam Chesed Yiboneh. So when we emulate Hashem, feels good, feels nice. I'm sure everyone here has experienced when you do something really nice, you feel good about yourself. Not always, but usually, right? I had just the first thing that comes to my head. Last week, I was walking home from shul. I was in a bit of a rush. I had to take my kid to Gan and get to the Chabura. And I see right next to my house, maybe you guys saw it, there's this weird bottles, all sorts of weird bottles and flags and all sorts of strange things. And that day, the bottles had flown over. The wind had blown them over. So my natural intuition was like, I'm in a rush. I don't know what the deal is with these bottles anyway. I gotta go, yeah? I said, it'll take 2 minutes. I started picking up the bottles. Why not? Be a nice guy. So right then, the second guy, I've never met him, starts screaming from the roof, Kol HaKavod, Tov Meod. So I was like, oh. And I showed him my kippah, Tried to make, it feels good when you make a Kiddush Hashem. You feel good about yourself. And it feels good to do chesed. That's something I've learned. I used to direct the chesed programs, a lot of yeshivas and seminaries. In the beginning, it's hard for people sometimes if they're not used to it. But usually, once you start getting into the habit of it, of doing chesed, you enjoy it. You like it. It's fun. Because that's our nature. So chesed, it's good for us. A lot of times people give me all these praises about the Shabbos meals that I host. Oh, wow. This, that, 40. At the end of the day, I like, it's fun. I like serving people food. It's a good time. Right? But that's okay to be selfish. But the key is to develop ourselves to become the types of people that enjoy doing good things, which isn't always easy. We have to kind of push ourselves in the beginning, in particular, to get into the habit. So it's good. It's good to do good. Yalla. Vashkamat Beit Midrash Shacharit ve'Arvit. What does that mean? Waking up early for Shacharis and Arvis. What about Mincha? What happened to Mincha? Does it get mentioned? So I think what it's saying is, it's not talking about davening now. It's talking about In the olden days, they would go from shul to the Beit Midrash, waking up early to learn and staying late at night. Be the last guy in the Beit Midrash. It feels good. You ever have that moment where you're learning alone and no one else around you is learning? You feel geschmack. I remember when I was in high school, I used to run away. I used to go to the Beit Midrash and on Avenue L and Ocean Avenue, and on Shabbos afternoon, just I get read my some Sfarim, and I felt great to be the only guy in the Beit Midrash. It feels good. It feels good to be in the Bashkamat Beit Midrash. So it's good, of course, in the next world. It's good in this world too. V'achnasat orchim, okay? Doing achnasat orchim. Maybe I shared with you guys last week, I forget. It's worth repeating. The Shla asks, why is it that the only mitzvah in the Torah that we see such an emphasis, so many psukim and psukim of chesed, is dafka achnasat orchim? We don't see psukim about bikor cholim. We don't see nichum avelim. We don't see all sorts of cheseds. But the only chesed that we have the whole story with Avram Avinu, psukim and psukim and psukim, is achnasas orchim. So the Holy Shlosh says like this, because why did Avram Avinu do chesed, as we were saying before? To emulate a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's the primal chesed of a Kadosh Baruch Hu? Achnasas orchim. Because what are we essentially? Guests. God created the world. We're guests in His world. And He gives us all sorts of cool things. He gives us water, He gives us tea, He gives us breath, He gives us feet, scooters, all sorts of cool things. Because He loves us. So He's being machnes orchim. And so when we're machnes orchim, it's fun. We love it. And that was Avram Avinu. He wanted to be like a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And as a reward for that, what does a Kadosh Baruch Hu give him after he's machnes orchim? Children. To emulate Hashem. God creates, so Hashem also allows you to create. It's a good word. Anyway, so achnasas orchim, if you have the right guest, it's fun, it's enjoyable. You feel good about it. It also brings bracha into your life, like we just showed. Ubikor cholim. Bikor cholim, how's that good for you? How does that make you feel good? What do you think?
You take away some of the sickness from the person.
Good, so you take away his 1/60th of the sickness. So but how does that make me feel good? I know it's good for the choila, but how does it feel good for me?
Like a vaccine, maybe.
What?
It's like a vaccine, maybe.
I take a little bit of it so you won't get... So it could be one shot as you walk in there and you see he's so sick and I'm not. I'm walking out with my 2 feet and I say, Baruch Hashem, you walk away a little happier. Maybe that's one way of doing it. But on another level, you feel good about helping another person, about caring about them, about helping them out. And, you feel good after you do a proper Bikor Cholim. I know personally, I have an easier time with other mitzvahs than Bikor Cholim. Probably like a lot of people. It's not always so easy. But I used to kind of force myself. Back in the day, when I had time, I'd take my guitar and we'd sing some Shabbos songs. And even if it wasn't fun in the beginning, you always feel good about yourself at the end of it. You feel good. And you thank Hashem. So, it feels good. Bikor Cholim. Hachnasas Kala. What does Hachnasas Kala mean? Anything you do for the Chassan and Kala. Could be giving them money for the wedding. According to Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, the main mitzvah is to be at the chuppah, to misameach them, at the wedding itself. Maybe according to some opinions, even after the wedding, the Sheva Brachas is fulfilling this mitzvah of Achnasas Kala. How does Achnasas Kala make us happy? It's fun, no? It depends on the wedding, but I don't know. For me, you dance, you sing. It's fun, no? So.
But it does say Kala, it doesn't say Chassan.
Correct. So the primal mitzvah is to make the Kala happy. Many assume that it also applies to the Chassan.
Happy wife is a happy life.
Happy wife is a happy life. So the primary mitzvah goes to the Kala, correct. Saying good words about the Kala, but it could be also that being Mesameach the Chassan is included. The point is, when you're being, that's an easy one. When you're being Mesameach them, you feel good about yourself. I remember once I was invited to we hosted like a Shacharis for this new couple. They didn't have any other family, so we did the Shabbos Kala by us. And then they said, "Oh, it was nice. Maybe you'll come to the wedding also," because the Chassan didn't have so many guys to dance with. So I said, "Sure, why not?" And I went and we danced, and it was cool, like dancing for a guy I never met before. doing it lishma. And then in the end, that guy ended up being my boss, and he got me some jobs teaching Torah. So you see, good things come to those who do good things. Okay. Ulvayat hamet. What does ulvayat hamet mean? Escorting the dead. Okay? Again, we know this is good in the next world. What we're trying to figure out is, why is it good for us here? How is it good to escort the dead to the next world? It's kind of sad. Funeral doesn't really make you, it's kind of a downer. What's good about that? What do you think? But what good can come out of going to a funeral?
Remind us of our purpose in this one.
Right, like Shlomo Melech says, better the day of death than the day of jest. So, right? So, in other words, it reminds us why we're here, what our purpose is, refocuses us. That's why there's a minhag. Some people have to go to the Kfarim, and brings us back to our purpose. And at the end of the day, we're leaving the kever breathing. So, so we have what to be thankful for. Okay? Levayat hamet. The big mitzvah. So even if there's 100 people there, every single person who goes to the levaya, it's a big kavod for the mace, and up in the heavens they appreciate it. So it's a big mitzvah. It's a shaila in the first place. Why don't we have to go to every single funeral in the world? Okay, we also have to do other mitzvahs, but if there's one passing by, you certainly should drop everything and go to, within reason, you should go to the funeral. V'iyun tefila is a good one. What does iyun tefila mean? What we're doing right now. How is learning about tefillah good for us in this world? How is that good for us?
Better.
Because anyway, we're davening, right? You're davening already. We're spending an hour and a half to 2 hours of our day, and Shabbos, 3 hours. So it can either be a dreadful experience, where you're just waiting for it to be and saying a bunch of Chinese, or you went to the Shiur, you learned what the words mean, and you're excited to daven, and now it's enjoyable. Right? So there's another, it's a complex. The Gemara, it says that you're not allowed to be ma'ayin in tefillah. In Rosh Hashanah.
You're mekuvan, you have kavanah.
So there's different explanations as to what iyun tefillah means. You're not supposed to be ma'ayin in the sense of like being haughty, like, oh, I had an amazing davening. God definitely heard my prayer. That's a negative iyun tefillah. But a positive iyun tefillah, the way that many explain it, Rav Schwab in prayer and others say, is what we're doing right now. And others explain it's being mechaven in tefillah. But either way, if you do it right, it's an unbelievably joyous experience. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan recounts how he used to have students who would come and rush through their davening so that they could go meditate. And then he taught them that tefillah itself is a meditation. It can be enjoyable. And then instead of rushing through it, they meditated and they made it enjoyable. And that's my experience too. When you're jumping into it, when you're excited about davening, it's amazing. It's enjoyable. You want to just stick in that bracha for a long time. So in tefillah, you see the pairs in this world. Wrapping up, Vavat shalom ben adam lechaveiro uben ishto, making peace between friends and between man and woman. How is that helpful for us? How does that bring joy to us? So happy wife, happy life, right? But if you make other people happy, so then all the more. So you're gonna find bracha in your own life. If you're a peacemaker, you're that Aaron, you're the Kohen, like we were talking about before, always seeking to make peace. So then peace is gonna pursue you. Everyone's gonna love you. You're the guy. You're the peace man. Okay, and peace pursues you. And finally, the Talmud Torah keneged kulam. And Talmud Torah is more than everything. Talmud Torah is the primal piece of Torah which brings blessing to us, not just in the next world, but in this world. How so? How does Torah bring enjoyment to this world? Again, in the next world, you get schar for every mitzvah. Every word of Torah is a mitzvah, says the Vilna Gaon. Sure, but how does it make our life better in this world?
Makes us a better person in this world.
It makes us a better person. That's good. What else? You feel like you're living with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You feel God's presence. You bring the Shekhinah into your life. Beautiful.
You're bringing your mind, to God, or God's mind into your mind.
Bringing Hashem into your mind. Wow. Like in the Bircat Kohanim. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. God's putting His face on you and kind of through Torah study, bringing peace upon you. And like the minds of Hashem and you are meeting, so to speak. Beautiful. For me, I would just say in the simplest sense, the beautiful thing about Torah is that it always gives me a mitzvah. No matter where I am, I'm waiting online on the roller coaster, whatever it is, I have an opportunity to connect to Netzach. I can connect to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I can connect to a mitzvah that's the most integral mitzvah every moment of my life. And so what could be more enjoyable than that? Just look around, look at you guys. There's some people who, they get older, or even when they're young, and they're depressed. All they do all day is watch meaningless movies and sports, and they feel empty at the end of the day. But people who are spending their free time learning Torah, at the end of the day you feel geschmack, you feel good about yourself after you learn Torah. Not just in the next world, but in this world too. There's Paris. Okay, so next week, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to start off going a little bit deeper into this concept of what is Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Because it's a very interesting, controversial topic today. What is it? Does Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam mean I don't have to do other mitzvahs? I don't have to do chesed, I don't have to go to the army, all I have to do is learn Torah all day? Maybe. Maybe it means something different. What are the spiritual aspects of Torah? Or is it more the practical elements of Torah? So our hour is up, so we're going to Bezrat Hashem save that for next time, Bezrat Hashem. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And I hope our Tefila is more mechuvan and more beautiful. And let's end with a little niggin about Torah. Torah Hashem temimah, Torah Hashem temimah, Torah Hashem temimah, Neshivat Lahaveh, Torah Hashem temimah, Hey Torah Hashem temimah, Torah Hashem temimah, Meshivat Lahaveh, Ay Edut Hashem Ne'emana, Ay Machima Zedi, Ay Edut Hashem Ananana Ne'emana, One last thing I forgot to say. And so why most likely do we say this specific Gemara, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? Because the Gemara ends off talking about Talmud Torah, about the importance of learning Torah. So nothing too complex. Most likely the reason that this Gemara was chosen is because it also connects to many of the practical mitzvahs that apply on a day-to-day level, and also because it reminds us, after we say Birkat Torah, of the importance of Torah study, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. So I think that's the pshat.